Okay, so we're about to dive into a scientific paper that presents a really radical new way of looking at the universe and our place in it. It's called the Delta.72 Coherence Model. That name comes from a key mathematical relationship in the theory. And, it proposes this deep vibrational connection between our bodies, water, and even the Earth itself. Let's unpack this. It's a wild ride.
So, the whole model kicks off with a really fundamental question. We all think of time as the ticking of a clock, right? This straight line from the past to the future. But what if that's just a human invention? What if, on a much deeper level, time is actually a vibration, a frequency that we're all tuned into?
And the theory's answer is a resounding yes. It's suggesting that we are absolutely tuned in. But look, this isn't just some poetic idea. It's proposing a real, physical link, a kind of shared harmonic rhythm that connects us to the pulse of our planet through physics you can actually measure.
To really get this, we first have to shift how we think. We need to move away from clocks and start thinking in terms of rhythms.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Biology doesn't really run on a 24-hour clock. Our bodies live in this world of oscillations. You've got your heartbeat, your breathing, your brain waves, and all of those internal rhythms are nested inside these much bigger environmental rhythms, like our sleep cycles, the tides, and even the planet's own geomagnetic field. It's all a shared language of vibration.
So, how do you connect all these different rhythms? Well, the paper introduces a framework for that, and it's called the coherence map. You can kind of think of it as the sheet music for this whole planetary symphony.
And this, right here, this is the heart of the model. This map is like a Rosetta Stone for a hidden reality. It's suggesting that there's this profound two-way connection between four areas that science up until now has always treated as completely separate.
So what are these four domains? First, you've got the human biofield. That's basically the cloud of electrical signals coming from our heart and brain. Second, there's water, but viewed in this totally new way, as a kind of memory storage device. Third, you have the Earth's own electromagnetic environment, which includes the Schumann resonances. That's basically the planet's natural pulsing heartbeat. And finally, specific man-made structures that might be designed to interact with all of this. Now, the key word that connects all of this is coherence. Scientifically, yeah, it means a stable phase relationship between waves, but a much better way to get it is to think of a symphony orchestra. When every instrument is playing in tune and in time, you get this incredible, powerful, coherent sound. The theory suggests these four domains can achieve that same kind of harmony.
All right, now we get to what is probably the most mind-bending piece of this entire puzzle. The idea that water, the stuff that makes up 70% of our bodies, can act like a tape recorder for time and frequency. So the theory goes that water molecules can arrange themselves into these stable, almost crystal-like structures called coherent domains. As you can see here, these little domains are super sensitive to outside fields. They can be imprinted by frequencies from our bodies or the Earth, basically arranging themselves to store that vibrational pattern. In a way, the water inside us and around us might be constantly recording our energetic history.
And this is the absolute crucial point, straight from the paper. Water isn't just this passive backdrop for life. This model says it's the active medium that records and communicates the phase information, the timing, the harmony between us and our world. It's the physical bridge.
Okay, so if our bodies are the instruments and water is the recording medium, what about that fourth domain, architecture? What role does it play in this symphony? This is where things take a really fascinating historical turn.
What the model suggests is that certain ancient structures, like the Great Pyramid, might not just be tombs or monuments. What if they were actually functional pieces of technology? Architectural amplifiers designed specifically to focus and strengthen that resonant connection between the human biofield and the Earth's own frequencies.
For example, and this is pretty incredible, recent physics research has modeled how the internal chambers of the Great Pyramid can actually concentrate electromagnetic energy. The Delta.72 model just takes that one step further, proposing these chambers were designed on purpose, as resonant cavities tuned to amplify the exact coherent frequencies we've been talking about. Now I know, this all sounds pretty wild, but what makes this a real scientific framework and not just a philosophical idea is that the authors lay out a very clear way to test it and, to potentially prove it wrong. That's good science.
They propose this concrete four-step experiment. First, get a baseline reading. Simple enough. Second, you have a person enter a highly coherent biological state, like deep meditation. Third, you expose them to electromagnetic fields that are tuned specifically to the Earth's Schumann resonances, that planetary heartbeat we mentioned. And finally, you run a control using random, non-resonant frequencies. The model predicts you'll see a massive, measurable jump in coherence only in that third step.
And what's so powerful about this is that it's not science fiction. This diagram shows exactly how you would test it today with technology we already have. You'd hook someone up to EEG and heart rate sensors, analyze water samples with a spectrometer, and use a simple coil to create the EM field. Every piece is off the shelf. The paper is basically throwing down a gauntlet to the entire scientific community, saying prove us right or prove us wrong.
And this quote just perfectly captures the spirit of the whole project. The goal is to build a real, testable bridge where physics, human physiology, and the science of our internal clocks, chronobiology, can all finally meet and speak the same language.
So, where does all of this leave us? Whether this model is eventually confirmed or not, it forces us to ask some seriously profound questions about what time even is.
So now let's see how all these pieces really lock together in the model's grand vision. This blueprint here, it summarizes the whole system. It shows this constant resonant exchange of information flowing between the human biofield, the Earth, water, and even purpose-built architecture. It's a vision of a reality that is just profoundly interconnected.
I mean, if this model holds up, the implications are absolutely staggering. It would mean our biological clocks are literally tuned to the Earth. It would mean water is a form of memory. And it would mean that ancient builders might have understood a kind of physics that we are only just now beginning to rediscover.
Ultimately, the Δ.72 Coherence Model gives us this testable and deeply compelling vision that challenges us to see the world not as a collection of separate objects, but as one single, vibrating, coherent whole. And that leaves us with a final, pretty profound question to think about.